Welcome to Drug Development Diaries, another episode with another guest, and we are going to discuss one more chapter from the book Approved, the Life Cycle of Drug Development. With me, we have the editor of the book, Dr. Narendra Mule, and our guest for today, Yiwei She. Welcome both of you to the latest episode of Drug Development Diaries. And I request Naren sir to take over from here, introduce our guest for today, and then take the conversation forward. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vihan. Thank you, Vihan. And thank you, Yiwei, for coming to talk to us and sharing your experiences here.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. So I met Yiwei in 2023 at a rare disease conference in Philadelphia for the first time. And I have been interested in rare diseases for many years. And it was eye-opening for me to when I met with Yiwei and colleagues like her who have been working on individualized therapies for their children, in her case, her own son. So she has a deeply personal story that she has written in this book, and we really appreciate your effort that you've taken. Just as a background, Yiwei is a mathematician, and she has, should we say, no direct experience in either biology, science, the biological sciences, or clinical sciences, or drug development. But through her experiences with her own son, which she will tell a little bit about, she has become a pioneer in this area of TNPO2, the disease itself, but also, in my mind, a pioneer in the area of drug development for individualized patients, which are called N-of-1 studies. So welcome, Yiwei. We can have a little bit of a conversation on that.
Thank you. Yes.
So, Yiwei, I think as I mentioned, this is a personal story that you've written, and there's a lot of passion behind the writing that you've done. How has your worldview of medicine, drug development, and everything else changed with your experience?
So I think before this happened to my child, I was pretty engaged whenever I visited the doctor, or I enrolled my daughter Anna in the COVID trials, the COVID vaccine trials. So I was scientifically literate and involved, and I took a lot of interest, whenever I saw, in my own pregnancy and in other interactions with the healthcare system. But I was kind of like, I was more of a consumer of healthcare, and I took everything the professionals told me with full trust, and I didn't really question it. I mean, I did research just to learn more because of my own kind of scientific curiosity. But yeah, so that changed a lot from being, I was kind of still a passive consumer of healthcare as much as I was an active participant. But when my son was diagnosed with this genetic illness, and he was the second patient, it turns out that there were no experts. There was no scientific literature. There was very little scientific literature. I shouldn't say none. And so I felt that, well, my whole stance changed to going from, a consumer to kind of like an active participant, like a fully active participant in the clinical setting, but also in the preclinical and the research and the basic sciences setting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that was quite a transformation, and even our conversations, the terminologies that you use have become so much more familiar to you, interacting with the FDA directly also, and also indirectly, and making that case. So just from the chapter perspective and your story that you've told, you were able to interact with a lot of different scientists. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you reached out to so many people and you got everything moving, moving.
The short answer is it was kind of project management by a very sick child. So the motivation to act was driven by Leo's continued seizures. They were refractory. His medical status was so critical and so fragile. So it helped me, it pushed me through a lot of kind of hesitation or self-awareness issues or what have you. A lot of the things that would have used to stop me from just reaching out to complete strangers. I just thought, you know what, if I don't, then this will keep happening and Leo will suffer.
Right.
But I think the long answer is that the scientific literature is out there right now with open science and the publishing, the paywalls are coming down, so anyone can read the science. If you take the time and the energy and to understand it, you can write to the corresponding authors. So if you can craft a letter, an email that is compelling, that shows that you have read their work and that you can engage, as a scientist, then people actually wrote back to me. So I was really grateful for that. And the scientists who didn't, well, I guess we didn't end up working with them. So, it's kind of like it's both the individuals who are involved and kind of you doing a lot of legwork.
Right. Yeah, one more question to follow up on that, because I think we've talked about this before. Was it a lot of convincing the physician to become the principal investigator, or how was that effort? Was it?
Oh, yes. So, I mean, so there's the research scientists and the preclinical science, and then, there's regulatory science, but the clinical portion was also a very heavy lift. So, it was mostly finding a clinician who was willing to try in a very high risk setting.
Yeah.
Because again, my child was medically fragile, but he was not, thank God, he wasn't terminal. So it was actually a lot of risk for a clinician to undertake an N-of-1, research study
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah. So that itself was quite the journey. Yeah.
Yes.
So So over to you, Vihang.
We talked about how your experience has been. So can we discuss a bit on N-1 clinical trials? Because compared to traditional models where there are many patients involved, different cohorts and different control groups involved, in N-1 clinical trials, it's only one patient involved. So how was your experience in navigating through this different kind of model of clinical trials?
So we kind of, we had to build it as we went along, right? So there's not an established practice of N-of-1 clinical trials. So we try to build our endpoints during the drug development process because we kind of had to do everything simultaneously. So we observed Leo very carefully. We tracked the seizures, we tracked his other symptoms, we tracked, his hypotonia. We tried to find objective, as much as possible, objective measures or observations that we could try to compare against a post-intervention kind of behavior, right? So it's very, very different, right? Because in traditional clinical trials, the endpoints and the natural history study, that is all done kind of completely independently. And there's a lot of time to do those studies, and there's time to validate those endpoints, and there's all these statistical significance tests and all that stuff. But here it was just kind of like we have one shot to collect data on a baby who's growing up, and then he has all of his individual variation, and then again we're going to try to compare it again as much as possible against the post-intervention baby.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So just following up on the same part, could you tell us a little bit about TNP2? What are the early signs or symptoms that you see? Because this video is going to reach many people, and there might be people who are not aware that something like this exists. And maybe some information might benefit them as a parent if they want to if they want to identify if such a disease is occurring with their child. What is it that they should look for, or what is it that they should think in what way to correctly take the correct steps?
Yes, absolutely. So TNPO2 is actually just a gene, and it's
Right.
not a very special gene. It traffics cargo in and out of the nucleus. What might be
Right.
more helpful to parents of children is that a lot of what's thought of as these large diseases like epilepsy, like especially refractory epilepsy or cerebral palsy, or say profound autism, they actually have genetic etiologies. And a lot of them are pretty rare, and they can't be found on a panel, on a microarray panel. So if you have a child who suffers from one of these more profound neurological conditions, find a way to get your child tested with a whole genome sequence. And then, because sometimes there are very good treatments for these very rare diseases. Most of the time there isn't, but knowing is better than not knowing, and you can also get connected to the patient advocacy groups who are experts in the individual diseases.
Right, right. So could you elaborate a little bit on what is the role of patient advocacy groups in drug development for rare diseases?
That is a great question. So traditionally, patient advocacy groups, we kind of we advocated, right? So we got people together. We raised awareness, we raised funds, we seeded research, we started the research going, and we also made political. I don't know. We put political pressure to try to get funding, but also support and regulatory changes. I think patient advocacy is changing a lot. The groups themselves, we like for example, us, the TNPO2 Foundation, we are getting very hands-on in the research process because we think things can move faster, and that academia is has a different pace than what a diseased child and what the patient community kind of is looking for. So now we're kind of getting more into research, and we're getting our hands all over. We're all over the place, right? We are pushing for better policy, better better practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right, all right. Yeah, sir.
yeah, so
Please.
no, I think what you've done is, we have created this organization called TNPO2.org, and I think that's been very useful. And you've been trying to reach around people around the world, and maybe you can speak a little bit about what you've been trying to do outside of the US. I know you and I spoke a little bit about it.
Yes. So we have a few initiatives. First, now we have a very precisely targeted drug candidate. The incidence rate is incredibly low. So the first child with Leo's mutation was actually diagnosed in the Netherlands. And it's hard to get a good sense of the incidence rate, but we know that there's no reason why this mutation would prefer, Europeans or Indians or Chinese or whatever ethnicity. It's just a randomly occurring mutation. And so I've been, looking for ways where we can screen and find patients for whom this drug could be helpful. And so I think, if there's any patients, doctors, or policymakers, government officials out there who, especially if the country or the jurisdiction has genetic testing on a large scale, please reach out to us, because we would love to find another patient for whom this drug could help.
Yeah, no, very good.
Yeah.
No, so thank you for sharing all your experiences, especially here, and also much more detail in the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after having lived through these experiences, what do you see are the current gaps in the drug development process? And what do you think can be done on different fronts, from regulatory point of view, from the science point of view, and also from the advocacy point of view, which can make this process better or more suited for rare diseases?
Yeah. I guess the word wouldn't be gap. I think I would say that currently our drug development process it's a process that fits large common indications, and it's which is just a very different shape and type of program than you would do for diseases that affect even 10,000 patients, or as you get lower in incidence rate, it completely breaks down, right? So when you get to the N-of-1 scale, both the drug development process and the medicine, the practice of medicine also kind of breaks down. Because how is a physician supposed to diagnose a disease that has an incidence rate of 2 in 8 billion, right? There is no medical education that could help.
So difficult.
Exactly. So I would say that so it needs to be a collaboration between regulatory agencies and industry. to really, I think, start from scratch. And I think that's what it was helpful to be an outsider of the industry, in this journey. Is
Yes.
if I had been an insider, I would have said, okay, well, it's going to take 10 years and I have to do it in this way. Coming at it from the outside, it was like, I know the end point that I want to get to. I don't really care how I get there. And so,
Yeah.
I just want to get there as fast as possible and,
Correct.
as safe and efficaciously as possible. Let me just throw everything at it. So I think, if people in the industry and the regulatory agencies could take that same mindset, because I think they can do it, right? They did it for COVID. They did that.
Right.
They rewrote the whole book. And then they got to a vaccine that went through phases 1, 2, 3 trials, in a year. So like, it's
Can be
possible.
done.
And
It's
why?
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. And it's like, what happened to the process that they came up with to do that, right? Like, they just take that process, and that could be the new drug development process.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Yiwei, first of all, thank you again for this amazing chapter that you have written. It was not an afterthought. Absolutely, it was actually the driver of writing the whole book. It is,
Oh,
you
really?
know, because
Okay.
it is, we've been talking for more than 2 years now, and
Yeah.
on various different aspects, and I felt like the book itself is the purpose of one of the purposes of the book is to realize that the drug development process is very long and lengthy, and there are ways and means to really, I won't say cut short just for the sake of cutting short, but actually be much more smarter in
Yes.
in getting to the end point, because we know that patients really need these medicines.
Yes.
And that's all the ultimate driver. So thank you again for coming to this podcast, and we look forward to more work from your organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
the invitation, and yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks to both of you for this wonderful, insightful discussion. I'm sure that there are students or young entrepreneurs or young professionals who are watching this, and they'll definitely benefit from the insightful discussion. And finally, to all our audience, thanks for staying in. Thanks for tuning in. And we will meet again in the next episode with another guest. Until then, go grab a copy of this book, read the insightful chapters that we have. Tell us what you think in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.